The new update, Stargazer, is just around the corner. And with that, we have huge game-changing announcements. First and foremost, a new character, Adele, will be added to the game. Secondly, a huge balance change was announced. Right now, a lot of people are speculating that it will be the 2-minute burst change, but that is not guaranteed, so we'll have to wait and see if that's true. Third big update was the Legion/Link skill character level up event. This includes the Challenger world for both Heroic and Interactive world, plus the Hyperburn MAX. That means people will be leveling up new characters to level 260. But that also means you have to choose a character. So today, I'm here to showcase some of the characters that I play. And who knows, maybe you weren't interested about this character before, but now that you watched this video, you might want to grow some of them. So let's move on to the first character. The first character is Adele. I'll be going through the pros and cons, the rating, and the reason of those ratings, and some fun facts. First, the pros of Adele is that she has a lot of utilities such as built-in binds and iframes. She's also easy to play, and Adele is getting one of the best buffs with the 2-minute burst cycle change. However, the cons, she has a long story. Adele's burst duration is very long, and the mobility skills such as feather floats and resonance rush are not too fast. Now for the rating, I give Adele farming 3.5 out of 5, bossing 4 out of 5, and party synergy 1 out of 5. For farming, Adele has one of the best auto attacking skills, Cleave. And with the addition of Hunting Decree, Aether Forge, and Ethereal Arms, Adele is able to sweep any map with ease. Now to explain, Hunting Decree is a skill that spawns 2 swords by using a charge from Aether Weaving. And these 2 swords automatically target enemies, prioritizing bosses. And for skills like Ethereal Arms and Aether Forge, they are automatically triggered whenever you use a skill like Cleave. But that's not all, because Adele can cover a lot of area with her movements. For some maps with large platform distance, you may not be able to reach the top platform with just an up jump. And if that's the case, you can use Feather Float to gain extra height, or use Impale and Resonance Rush combo to travel extra distance. Now for bossing. Adele has a lot of utility skills for bossing too. She has Blade Torrents for bind, Aether Guard for iframe, High Rise for staying in the air, and as mentioned before, Impale and Resonance Rush combo, plus Feather Float to cover some distance. With the new KMS changes coming in, apparently Adele gets another dash, but right now it's not in GMS, so we'll have to wait and see. However, since Adele has a lot of these utilities, Nexon, for some reason, decided to nerf all of them, or at least make them weaker, which happens to be a synonym. So how did they make these skills weaker? Well, by giving these skills some drawbacks or a condition. And the only skill that avoids this treatment is Blade Torrent, the bind skill. So let's move on to Impale and Resonance Rush. Well, it takes time to cast, so if you have boomer hands, you might not move out in time. But to be honest, a lot of dashes in this game do have action delay. But compared to dashes from Kali, Moshuan, and also Pirate Class's skill Backstep, this skill is significantly slower. But hey, at least with the new balance update, the action delay is getting removed by 7%. Wow, that's a very big number. Now for High Rise, thankfully, this one has a bit of a benefit. If you double tap up, you can cast the skill without binding it to the keyboard, which means you can save a slot for your keyboard, which nowadays is a huge benefit. However, there is a skill in the V Matrix that is available for every class. That is Blink. Not only does Blink let you stay afloat longer, but you can also move around during Blink. But it's not all bad news for High Rise, because during High Rise, you can cast Cleave, which means you can attack the boss while you're staying afloat. And the biggest drawback for Adele goes to Aether Guard, because it only gives you an iframe for a single hit. Not only that, you also have to time it too, just like Mihail's Royal Guard. Just minus the damage, and the iframe, the cooldown. But other than that, it's just like Mihail's Royal Guard. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this class is getting one of the best buffs in the game. And one of those buffs is Aether Guard getting a full, solid 1 second iframe. Now for the burst skill, Infinity Blade, just like the name, it summons a lot of swords. Like, a lot. However, to maximize your damage, the boss has to be targetable for the full duration of 30 seconds. Of course, this is going to change with the 2-minute burst balancing, where it reduces the duration from 30 seconds to 20 seconds, which means in theory, you can keep the boss binded down for the entire duration of Infinity Blade. 10 seconds from Blade Torrent, and another 10 seconds from your Hexa skill. So in some cases like Vellum and Lucid, you may miss out on some damage. With the introduction of the new Hexa skills, one of Adele's skill has changed dramatically. That skill is Plummet. Before the 6th job, Adele used to use this skill for utilities such as stopping mid-air or going down really quickly. However, now that this skill is in the Hexa Matrix, you have to use this skill for damage, which means, well, you have to jump to use it, so up and down you go. Now for party synergy. Fortunately, Adele has some party synergy. The skill, True Nobility, lets you take 30% of the party members' incoming damage, then converting 80% of any damage you receive into a shield. Additionally, the skill Brave Proclamation decreases the enemy's defense by 10%. And if you want to get extra picky with party synergy, Adele's Link skill grants you 2% extra damage per party member, although it's only for you, but it synergizes with the party nonetheless. Now for some fun facts. If you ever want to get behind the boss, instead of double jumping over or using Feather Float to blink over, try using Resonant Rush. Because whenever you hit Resonant Rush, it increases your final damage and grants you IED, which stacks up to 2 times. And also, before using Aether Bloom, make sure to use Noble Summons to gather your hunting decrease so that when you use Aether Bloom, all of your swords are next to the boss so it will do maximum damage. Not only that, Noble Summons also grants you 10% IED debuff to the boss, so it's very helpful. And also when you're casting Storm, make sure to have max amount of hunting decrease summoned, because for every sword that is summoned, it grants another line of attack count on Storm. Now we move on to Angelic Buster. Pros of Angelic Buster includes, it has a lot of utilities, easy to play, and this.
Ooh, Blade's getting mad!
Unfortunately, it can be a con for some people. Now for some cons, Angelic Buster has really bad action delay, also has a long burst duration, and that.
Hope you're not mad!
Can also be a pro for some people. Now for rating, I'll give Angelic Buster farming 3.5 out of 5, bossing 4.5 out of 5, and party synergy 0.5 out of 5. For farming, I guess this is only relevant for the current update because Angelic Buster currently right now is a 2-minute burst class with a 30-second burst duration, which means you can use your burst skill, Superstar Spotlight, whenever it comes up to help you with farm if you are struggling to one-shot the mobs in the map. Also, similar to Adele, Angelic Buster also uses their auto attack skill, Celestial Roar, to activate their toggle skill, Soul Seeker. Unfortunately, I found Angelic Buster to be uncomfortable when it comes to double jumping and farming. Why? Well, it's because of Angelic Buster's double jumping distance. It goes up very high and very far compared to any other class. Usually this is a benefit, but for farming, well, it can be a bit difficult. Because if the mobs are too small, Celestial Roar does not hit them when you're double jumping. Thankfully, for higher level monsters, their hitbox are way bigger, so this won't be much of a problem. But the other problem is that Celestial Roar has a really weird passive. It stuns the enemies. In maplestory, when you hit a mob and you don't kill them, these mobs will chase you to the end of the earth. And that's usually a good thing, so that you can group up these mobs so you can kill them all with an AoE attack. However, if you stun them, they don't chase you. Therefore, they won't group. Thankfully, if you do get them low enough, your toggle skill, Soul Seeker, will be able to finish them off. Not to mention, using other skills like Final Ribbon, Trinity Fusion, and Supreme Supernova can help you clear these mobs faster as well. And also, since Angelic Buster is a pirate, she also gets that extra 20% EXP boost from loaded dice. Moving on to bossing. Angelic Buster has a lot of good utilities for bossing. Only thing she does not have is a bind. But thankfully, in V-Matrix you have Erda Nova, so that won't be a problem. For dashing, Angelic Buster can use Pink Plummel, but unfortunately there's a bit of a delay. For iframe, you can use Sparkle Burst or Soul Resonance. Not to mention, since Angelic Buster is a Nova class, she also gets the Might of the Nova skill. And with all of these skills combined, Angelic Buster just becomes an unkillable bossing machine. Now moving on to party synergy. The only party synergy that I know of Angelic Buster is Finale Ribbon. This skill applies a debuff on the enemy that grants 20% additional damage from non-Angelic Buster classes. I really don't know any other synergy, so I highly recommend solo playing if you're playing Angelic Buster, which is ironic because she's an idol and she needs a crowd, but she can't have a crowd. Now here are some fun facts. If you want to stay in the air, Soul Resonance allows you to stay afloat. You may lose your iframe skill, but sometimes dodging attacks are much better than using it for iframe. And for farming, I have seen some videos of people just spamming Soul Seeker while placing down some summons such as Soul Yanis or Erda Fountain. So if you have high enough damage, you can stand still and farm from a single area. Now we are moving on to Lara. The pros for Lara is that she is very easy to play for both farming and bossing. And Lara is one of the best, if not best, farming class in the game. Not to mention, for the burst, Lara has very condensed burst duration. However, the cons. Lara has very weak damage, very inconvenient utilities, and heavily relies on summon damage. Now for rating, Lara's farming is 5 out of 5, bossing is 2 out of 5, and party synergy is 2 out of 5. Now to explain for farming, 5 words. Manifestation where the river courses. You just place it anywhere on the side of the map and press up to travel between the 2 points, and then you erupt the dragon veins to clear the map. That's it. And since this clears a huge area of the map, you can use Soul Yanis Dusk instead of Soul Yanis Dawn to clear the rest of the mobs. However, if you can't find any blue dragon veins to place down Manifestation where the river courses, you can convert an already existing one by using Dragon Vein Conversion or place a new one down using Unconstrained Dragon Vein. But for bossing, this is where things get messy. Thankfully, Lara has a quick burst, so it's not easy for you to miss out on some damage. Simply, you just buff Vine Coil to bind, Arbor Away to apply a buff and debuff, and then Lance Connection, Winding Mountain Ridge, Big Stretch, Surging Essence, then finally Hexa skill. However, make sure to have all 3 of your eruption skills out during the burst, because if you didn't summon any before, Big Stretch will remove 5 dragon veins from nearby locations. Therefore, you won't be able to summon any eruptions. Thankfully, once the new Hexa skills are released, Lara would not have to worry about dragon veins after using Big Stretch, because from then on, we will be using Absorption instead of Eruption. Lara does have some useful utilities to help, however, they are terrible. Long story short, Lara has utilities from Wish.com. First, she does have Blink, Dragon Vein Traces. However, you can only blink to the closest dragon vein you are facing, which means you won't be able to freely teleport a consistent amount of distance. Secondly, up jump. You cannot up jump in the air. If Lara's feet is not touching any particle of the ground, you will not be able to up jump. That means you have to be on the ground to up jump, like the sheep that she is. However, one good utility she does have is Lotus Flower. Just like Angelic Buster, this is Heaven's Door skill, but this time for anima classes. And for iframe, she does not have it at all. Well, she does have ethereal form because she is a mage, but that's not really an iframe. Actually, it is becoming an iframe with the 2-minute burst changes, but she does not have an iframe. Now let's talk about a skill that nobody talks about. Did you know that Lara had this skill called Mountain's Embrace? Rightfully so, this skill is not mentioned because it is terrible. This skill pretty much mitigates 55% of incoming damages when it's held down. And remember Aether Guard from Adele? It's literally that, but you don't negate the first hit. I told you, this class has utilities from Wish.com. But don't get me wrong, it can be useful time to time. Like when you're doing Lucid and she uses the bomb attack. You can hold this down, you have to go next to a little one of those like Kalen symbol looking things. Even though you can just ethereal form that, but you know, yay. Now for party synergy. Surprisingly, Lara has decent amount of party synergy. I wonder why. First, Manifestation Sunlight Filled Ground. This skill increases the party damage by 25%. Not only that, it also heals the party members' HP by 10% of their maximum HP every 2 seconds. However, this buff lasts for 2 minutes for Lara instead of 20 seconds for the party members. Secondly, Manifestation Wind Swing. This skill grants attack speed +1 to party members. And for the duration of the buff, it is exactly the same as the other Manifestation skill. Also, another benefit of having this skill is if you hold jump inside the skill, then you can stay afloat. Lastly, Arbor Away. This decreases the enemy's defense by 15%. Now here are some fun facts. Since you can have one of each type of dragon veins erupted, make sure to check all 3 are up during bossing at all times, because they are the ones that are doing the damage, not you. Now we'll move on to Illium. The pros of Illium is that you can fly. And this skill is so OP beyond comprehension that it feels like an iframe. Not only that, Illium is easy to farm and has a lot of good other utilities. And for cons, it is difficult to learn at first. Also, you have to spam 2 skills at all times, and burst and other skills relies on the gauge. Now for rating, Illium gets a farming rating of 4 out of 5, bossing rating 4.5 out of 5, and party synergy 3.5 out of 5. Now for farming, I would like to say Illium has 3 methods of farming. The first one, I like to call it Angara Messi. You just spam 3 buttons while moving forward. Radiant Javelin and Orbs, and deploy Crystal. By far, this is the worst way to farm, but it's something I like to do during the daily quest because I can't be bothered. Next one is Crystalline Spirit farming. Just place down Crystalline Spirit on one side and leave the real crystal on the other. Make sure to face the Crystalline Spirit when you cast Javelin, since Orbs always goes towards the real crystal. That way, you can cover the entire map by activating reaction skills on both crystals. And in my opinion, this is the best method of farming. However, if you are unable to cover the entire map because of the size of the map, then perhaps this method might be for you. The Crystal Gate method. The skill, Crystal Gate, allows you to place up to 3 portals. When you press up on the portals, you are teleported to the next one in order to place them. The downside of this one is that it takes time to set up, so it is a bit annoying. And also, since the duration of the Crystal Gate does not match cooldown of the skill, you will have to use Wings of Glory when the gates are down. But to be honest, how can you back down the chance to fly around the map and kill monsters? Now for bossing, let's talk about Illium's insane utilities. Iframes? It's got 2, Longinus Spear and Crystalline Bulwark. Both have decent duration of iframe, which makes them very reliable. Also, when you fly using Wings of Glory and Crystalline Wings, you can dodge around 90% of any attacks they do. But unfortunately, Illium does not have a dash and a bind, which in my opinion is the least of his worries. Now when it comes to his skills, I like to divide them into 3 categories again. Number 1, Gauge Fearless. Number 2, In Between Skills. And number 3, burst skills. You can probably guess what number 1 skills and number 3 skills are. But what is number 2? These are the skills that you use when you're charging your crystal gauge. But why wouldn't you save this skill for the burst? That's because you can't custom when you're using Wings of Glory. And the skills that goes under this category is Vortex of Light and Resonance. And when you're bursting, make sure to have at least 1 Crystalline Spirit up and 2 Crystal Gates down. And once you're flying, just use Crystal Ignition to deal burst damage. Now moving on to Party Synergy. Honestly, the only party synergy that I can really find for Illium was Resonance. This skill heals yourself and your allies for 10% of maximum HP when making contact. But you're probably wondering, hey, that doesn't really give any damage, it only heals. Why did you give this character 3.5 out of 5 for party synergy? Well, that's because this isn't the only skill. There is this other skill called Crystalline Bulwark that grants iframe to your entire party. But from what I know, this only works when you're in the Wings of Glory form, and I've never really partied with anyone. Now here are some fun facts. When deploying your crystals, make sure you hold down. That way it teleports instead of sliding it across like a dog on a leash. If you press up, it teleports it on top of you. Also, when you are bursting, make sure to move up and down consistently. The reason for doing this is because of your Link skill, Tide of Battle. You want to have the skill active as long as possible, which means you have to move. So, good luck with that. Anyways, that was it. I really enjoyed playing all 4, and maybe you found some of them very interesting. If I forgot something, or I got something wrong, please let me know in the comments. But anyways, I'll see you next time. Bye bye!